Hello everyone, Craddock here. Today I'll be going over the Tal6 Arcane Torrent Static Discharge Manald Heal build. This is a little adaptation I made for groups. As you can see, it's a very bursty build. Um, we leverage high attack speed with this build to proc Paralysis and Manald Heal more. It's the basic idea. After you stack on a ton of different multipliers, you get nice damage spikes. What you're seeing here is a greater Rift 85. After a few tests on the PTR, I think it'll be greater Rift 90 plus capable after you get it fully spec'd out. But stick with me. We're going to go over the gear and the skills here shortly, and at the end of the video you'll get to see the full run. So to understand first where the damage of this build is coming from, let's take a look at Manald Heal. Enemies stunned with Paralysis also take 14,000% weapon damage as lightning. The cool thing about this is when Paralysis procs on an enemy, Manald Heal can deal damage multiple times a second. So it's very fast, very impactful, and something we want to strive towards. That's why we're stacking a lot of attack speed in this build, and I'll show you in a little bit how we do that, but that's the core idea. Paralysis, as far as I know, does not adhere to proc coefficients of any of the spells, so that's another reason why attack speed is highly favored, and it kind of makes the 15% chance a little better than it would be otherwise, which is very nice. So to build upon that base damage, we stack multipliers. This build has a lot of them. We've got the Tal6 bonus, which is a huge multiplier. And then on top of that, you've got the Endless Walk, Convention of Elements, Mantle of Channeling. You also have the Death Wish. And this build is particularly special because a lot of the PTR builds I've been seeing use Furnace, and this build does something different. We combine the multiplier from the Orb of Infinite Depth, the damage multiplier there, 20%, with the effect from Slow Time. I forget which rune it is. It's the Time Warp rune. Gives a multiplicative 15% damage bonus while enemies are caught in the warped bubble of time. So those two bonuses combined together aren't quite as much elite damage as you would have for a Furnace, but overall it's a lot more damage for regular mobs and just clearing. So I find this is a much better setup, a much stronger setup, more constant, and it's something to build around. So, Slow Time gives us attack speed. We're also getting attack speed from our gloves, chest, both rings, and you're also going to want attack speed on your weapon. We're also using the Pain Enhancer gem here, so every enemy within 20 yards gives you 3% increased attack speed as long as you critically strike them. And this is really huge for this build because you need to meet increased breakpoints for Arcane Torrent to proc Paralysis and Manald more. And with this setup, even on single target, even if you only have one stack of Pain Enhancer, you'll still meet the 7.5 ticks per second breakpoint, which is awesome. It's a very good breakpoint to be at for single target. So I think this is a very good setup. Just make sure that you roll near max on every slot attack speed that you can. There are a couple of other damage sources, a couple of damage multipliers that I forgot to mention. We're using Bane of the Trapped in this build, so that's a huge multiplier right there. Since you're always going to be, or typically going to be, really close to the mobs you're killing, this is a huge bonus. And also forgot to mention, we're using Black Hole Spell Steal, so if you hit like 10 enemies you get 30% bonus, if you hit 15 enemies, you get a 45% damage multiplier, which is amazing. So typically you want to use this on your fire rotation. That way, once you go into lightning phase, you'll be able to get that huge bonus from all your multipliers, including conventional elements. This build also uses the Taeguk gem, which is a very high, about 50% damage bonus. It is additive with magic weapon, but this isn't such a big deal in the end. I do think the Taeguk is the strongest option here. Maybe if your group composition doesn't have quite so much DPS, you can consider using Stricken for the boss, but overall I think Taeguk will be better here. The resource in this build is managed from Magic Weapon Conduit, which restores Arcane power. We also have APOC on source, and we have a couple of resource cost reduction rolls. We have Paragon, and then we've got a roll on the shoulder and Topaz and helmet. This will allow you to still attack single target and be able to carry on without losing resource. It's very nice. The only real detriment is it takes up an additional skill slot, so you don't have room for an armor spell, which would increase your toughness quite a bit. But overall, I think the inclusion of the slow time exhaustion rune, which would give you 25% with the orb of depth, along with your ancient Parthens and your mantle of channeling, I think those give quite a bit of toughness to go through the rift with and survive. For movement, we'll be using the illusory boots, which let you move unhindered through enemies. Very important, so that you don't get locked in and killed so easily. So you're thinking, well, that's great, but how does the build play? So in general, you're already going to have your 6-piece bonus up from Tal Rasha. Your pull support is going to bring in density. You're going to pop your slow time so that you'll have the attack speed buff up. Maybe make sure to use Blizzard to proc your pain enhancer a little bit more, maybe. Just keep your Tal 4 bonus up, and then you're going to want to, whenever that fire phase comes around, that's when you're going to want to pop your spell steal, because that'll give you more damage just in time for the lightning phase. And typically you want to pop the spell steal right before the lightning phase, that way you'll have it for the full duration, and then you just plow into them with static discharge and pray that your Manald Heal does its work. So there are a couple of potential swaps you could make with this build. Looking at the passives here, we've got Audacity for the huge damage bonus. Paralysis is required for Manald Heal. And then you've also got Unwavering Will and Unstable Anomaly. Unwavering Will is really nice for this build because it gives that nice defensive bonus while you're standing still. Unstable Anomaly gives you the second life. I think those are the best choices. However, if you're doing speed runs, you could swap one of these out for either Blur or potentially Illusionist. And with Illusionist, you would combine that with Teleport, so you just swap out Black Hole here for Teleport. And yes, you do lose that multiplier, but if it's a speed run, shouldn't be such a big of a deal. The mobility might be better. Now, the other cool thing you could do with Black Hole here is instead of Spell Steal, you could opt for more utility for your group. Say if you have a second damage dealer or a hybrid damage dealer in your group, you might opt for Event Horizon instead. That would suck up all the dangerous elite monster affixes and allow you to increase the survivability of your group overall, which would be very nice. So there is one other potential swap you can make. I've opted for Blizzard Snowbound because it's easy to use, keeps up your Tal 6 bonus, procs Bane of the Trapped, your pain enhancer. It's very easy to use, and you can always have your Tal 4 bonus up with the spell. The downside is it does, since you have to manually cast it, you won't be able to move quite as much as you would with something like Frost Nova Frozen Mists. So this rune here is a passive, more of a passive ability. You'd be able to run and just use it whenever you can. However, it's not an on-demand spell. It's a little bit harder to keep your Tal6 up, and there is a gap, a short gap in time, where you won't have your Tal4 bonus up from the cold stack. So that's something to keep in mind. So first off, I want to send out a quick thank you to my friend Fly for helping me test on the PTR shortly, and something to keep in mind when you're watching this video is that this was our first run, so very disorganized. I hadn't even configured force moves properly, so I kept casting Black Hole when I didn't need to, and everything that could go wrong was going wrong, so just keep that in mind. I'm also unaugmented, so the power level of the build will scale up quite a bit, and yeah, thank you for watching.